Hi, Chelsea. Welcome to today's show. How are you?
Yeah, so good, thank you. Yeah, we're sort of like coming out the other side of the COVID-19 situation at the moment. So it's been testing, but it's definitely been an eye-opening situation to be in.
Yeah, totally. It's been a crazy time, and I think where you are in the world, it's been a little bit more intense than where I am right now. So, like we were talking about just
Yeah.
before, so I'd love you to just introduce yourself before we jump in.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, my name's Chelsea Grainger and I am a life and confidence coach for women. I'm also an events facilitator and space holder as well. And essentially it's my kind of like mission and my purpose in life, I feel, is to really just support women in not only liking who they are, but loving who they are, in really starting to develop a better relationship with their self-worth, their self-trust, their intuition, and also to really question like the status quo in life and not just feel like they have to live by these certain shoulds, coulds, and expectations. There's also kind of like a secondary part to my mission, which is to really help women understand like the importance of sisterhood and like having that female support in your life, rather than seeing other women as your competition or something to compare yourself to and feeling like it's necessary to tear each other down. Like I really want to create that culture and community of like women rising together rather than tearing each other down.
Yeah, totally. I love that. And before we jump in, I'd love you to share how you start your day.
So every day is slightly different depending on obviously what I have on, but
Mm-hmm.
most days I do try and have like my non-negotiables. So something that's really important to me, I find, to set my day up right is to not delve into all of my like phone notifications as soon as I wake up, because it can be so easy to do if you obviously use your phone as your alarm in the morning or anything like that. The first thing you do is have your phone in your hand,
Mm.
and I find, or I was previously finding, that if I was sort of like still laying in bed, I would sort of start going into looking at all the notifications. I would already feel stressed about the day before I'd even got out of bed. Like that would
Mm.
kind of set the precedent for how my day was going to go. And so what I've started doing instead is just turning off my alarm, not even looking at the notifications, getting up and out of bed, and either trying to, so I kind of like to intuitively feel into what I want to do in the morning. So I
Mm.
don't kind of like set myself a rigid routine. Like if I feel like meditating, I will meditate. If I feel like moving my body and dancing, then I'll move and dance. Or if I just feel like, listening to a podcast or something whilst I'm getting ready, then I'll allow myself that time. But for me, it's like really important to just allow yourself the headspace before you get into that like working day and all of the to-dos and like I say, picking up all the notifications and things like that, just to create like a really clear headspace to start going ahead with first thing in the morning.
Amazing. Yeah, I really love that. And I'm the same when I um do my like rituals and all that kind of stuff to connect to me. I really do like to change what I'm doing because I think you just gotta listen to yourself. So I love that you just listen to what's tuned in for you on a certain day.
Mm.
That's really amazing.
Yeah, and I think it's also important because before, when I was like, okay, I have to wake up and the first thing I have to do is meditate, and then if I wouldn't do that, I would almost make myself feel wrong, and I would make myself feel like, right, well, I've messed it up now, I've not done my meditation.
Mm.
But every day is different, you feel different every day, so I do think it's so important to really connect with how you're feeling in that present moment, in that morning, and go with what feels right for you.
And we really are like our own worst inner critic and stuff. And so, those rituals and stuff are meant to set us up for success and joy and like lift us up. So if we're critical of ourselves for failing them or not doing it properly, then it kind of defeats the purpose. Um,
Exactly, yeah, and it's like it shouldn't feel like a chore. Like so it shouldn't, like if you wake up and you're thinking I'm going to go meditate, it shouldn't feel like a chore. It should feel like something you want to do that's going to really set you up for your day. So yeah, I definitely agree with sort of just tuning in and seeing what works for you in that moment.
mm, um, and so what compelled you to become a coach?
So my story is kind of like, to keep it as short as possible. So I got into personal development myself because I was so So first of all, I was so tired of feeling so insecure within myself. So I'd noticed that, you know, no matter who I was with, no matter what relationship I was in, I had a lot of insecurities, and I would kind of like have this overactive brain that would make me believe that, or make up stories rather, that, you know, my partner was going to find someone better than me, or I just wasn't good enough, or I wasn't funny enough, or pretty enough, or all of the enoughs. I just wasn't enough of any of them. And I got into personal development originally because, number one, I was so tired of feeling that way and getting myself into these like really sort of like crazy spirals of thought patterns and things like that, and like really feeling like intense like jealousy and insecurity, and just spiraling sort of like into these dark holes where I would have just got like, I would be in there and the entire thing would have been made up by my own mind. Like I would have made up the story and things like that, and almost like done it to myself. And then on the other side of that, I just always felt like there was something more. Like no matter how much I climbed the career ladder, you know, in my corporate job, or felt like I was moving up in the world in the way that you're expected to, like, you know, with the whole get in the good job, get up the ladder, you know, get to a high position, I just always felt like, is this really it? Like, is there nothing more? Like there's just got to be something more. And I always had this burning desire and passion and purpose within me that was like, there's got to be something more. And I considered things like being a nutritionist. I thought about being a midwife for a while. I thought about maybe even training to become a counsellor. So all of the areas that I was looking at were all about helping other people, like all about you know, in some way giving back. So at the time I didn't actually know that like coaching or life coaching was even a thing. I didn't know that they existed. So when I got into the personal development world, first of all got into it thinking that I needed to fix my relationship and fix my partner, and then actually realized that that mirror was reflected back at me, and it was me that needed to do the work. It was me that needed to go within and to really uncover and delve into, why was I feeling so insecure? Why did I not feel like enough? And what could I do to give myself permission to feel those things? And second of all, obviously realizing once I came across coaching and life coaching, I was just like, this is it. The thing, like, this is the thing that I've been looking for. Like, I 100% know this is it. And it's kind of like when you find that, when you actually pinpoint it, so in like previous things, I'd always like start something and then give it up, start something and then give it up. But then when I found coaching and life coaching, it was the one thing where I was like, giving up is not even an option. Like, this is what I have to do, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how much, like, you know, my ego kicks and screams and is like, no, this is too hard, you know. I was just like, no matter what, this is what I have to do. Like, there's no other option, because this is it. And yes, that's kind of how I got into the whole coaching side of things, and obviously then went on to study to become a coach, and things have just progressed since from there, really.
Yeah, I was so much so the similar. I remember when I first hired a coach, and it just was like the missing link in my life. Just dropped in. I was like, this is what I want to do. I need to do this. This is everything I've been looking for. I just fell in love with it. It was so incredible. And then that's what I mean. I didn't study coaching straight away. It took a couple of years to get there myself, but you know, it was amazing. So I really resonate with your story and how you got there. And so what is your legacy, the legacy you're here to leave?
So I'm basically here to help as many women as possible to really see within themselves that they are enough. It's one thing someone telling you that you're enough, but I want them to really see and feel it for themselves. So it's about, my legacy is essentially letting other women see that, you know, if I can do this, you can do this too. You are 100% enough. You are everything that you've ever needed is right there within you. So it's 100%, you know, helping as many women as possible to truly feel enough and love themselves, and also to really question what they want to do with their lives. Like, are they living the life that they've dreamed of, that they feel like fulfills them, and it you know, they're full of passion and purpose, or are they actually just following that almost like tick list of you know, go to school, go to university, get the job, get the husband, you know, all of the things, like the tick list that we tend to sort of like society puts on us, really getting them to question whether that's what they really want in life, or do they actually choose differently, do they choose something else. But then more recently, as I mentioned earlier, I definitely feel there's something more, like I'm a big believer in like we're lifelong learners, like we're always going to our depths and delving into more of us. And I'm definitely at the moment feeling more pulled and more called to so aside from coaching, I run sister circles and like gather women in group in sacred space and things like that. And that is an area that I feel so passionate about. And you just see like the progress of the women who sort of came to the very first circles to where they're at now, and the difference in them. And that is definitely an area which is like pulling me closer. Like I feel like there's something more for me to explore in terms of like, you know, my ancient lineage and like where I come from, my history, and what my sort of like true purpose is here. And I've got a real sort of feeling that like part of my legacy is that I'm here to heal, like I'm here to heal other women, and in that process that enables me to heal myself as well, because I'm definitely a huge believer in that we all, like as women, we all have some varying proportion of like the sister wound. So we've all at some point in our lives been hurt by another woman, or maybe it was like we were bullied in school by other girls, and maybe it's even come from our mothers, like the, you know, the sister wound that gets created as we move and grow through life. I feel so passionate about helping women heal that sister wound and actually look to other women as their support system, their community, their sisters essentially, and to really just start the movement of like women are not your competition, like they are there to support and collaborate and be in, you know, a sacred sisterhood with each other. So yeah, I do feel like, you know, as much as the one-on-one coaching is definitely an area I want to be in, I feel like there's more that I want to explore and move into as time goes on.
Yeah, amazing. So tell me about these sister circles. How do they run? What are they about? What do people get from them?
Yeah, so when I actually have only been running them for a few months now. They started originally back in January this year, so January 2020, and so I was running them in person, obviously before COVID-19. So essentially it was just really about bringing women together to gather in circle. And I think a lot of people have like a bit of a misconception of what they are. Like some people think they're a bit witchy, some people think they're too spiritual, all these kinds of things. But really the main purpose behind the sister circles is to just bring women together, to enable them to be in a room full of supported and like-minded women where they can truly take off that mask of like having to be a certain character or like pretend that everything's okay. And it's a real opportunity for women to come together and just share from the heart and really speak about what's going on for them right now, like what are they feeling. And it's essentially giving women that full permission. So you have like full permission if you need to cry and you need to release during that circle and be, you know, truly let the other women hold you and hold that space. Or on the flip side of that, you have permission to fully speak about yourself in the most celebratory way, because quite often I feel that we think it's a bad thing to talk about ourselves in a good way, you know, because it can be perceived as being big-headed, or, you know, she's full of herself, or, you know, all of the stereotypical lines that you get when you speak about yourself in a really nice and supportive way. So I give the women in the circles full permission to do all of that, to be all of who they are, to cry if they need to cry, to celebrate themselves if they want to celebrate themselves. And you often find that women, when they first come to the circle, there is a lot of nervousness, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of the guards, you know, you can really see the guards are up and the walls are still up when they first attend the circle, because they're essentially in a room full of like strangers, you know, a room full of women they've never met before. And our natural instinct as women is to kind of recoil and almost like analyze the room and be like, okay, like, you know, where do I fit into this sort of like group of women, like what's my role here? And then you see by the end of the circle, once we've really all, you know, shared from the heart, we've done a little bit of self-inquiry and things like that, you do like the final share and you see such a lift. Like some women are crying because they just feel so seen, heard and accepted by other women. Some women are crying because they feel like, you know, they've truly been able to be themselves, to take off the mask and show their true colours. And as I say, like some of the women who came to my very first circle and then to the circle, like my most recent circle, the difference in them is unbelievable. The way that they now shine, like their confidence is improved. Some of them are even like, you know, delving into skills and talents and passions that they've always had. They just didn't feel confident enough to share them with the world or really spend time cultivating their creativeness and things like that. And I'm seeing so many of the women in my circles, because you do find like quite often you'll get like the same women come into the circles. Once they kind of like experience it, they kind of don't want to let that community and sisterhood go. So you do get like new women coming along and joining too, but the ones that have been there from like my very first circle to my latest one, the shift and the difference in them just from feeling held and supported by other women is like phenomenal, and it's beautiful to see as well.
Yeah, so amazing. It's there's something about women sitting together in circle. And so are you running those online now that you're like with everything that's happened in the world?
Yeah, so that was a big change for me. So I didn't know how it would work online, first of all, and whether you would still have that same sense of, you know, like connection and the, you know, feel the energy between the women. So obviously when you're in person, you're in the room, you're there and you can feel the energy, and you know you're really truly sat with those women. So when I had to take it online because of the current situation, I was a little bit skeptical. I was a little bit unsure on how it would work. But truth be told, it's actually been a real blessing in disguise, because not only has it expanded the reach, so now I've got women who can attend the circles from all corners of the world. So they're not, you know, they don't just have to be the local women. And it's meant that like, you know, people from all over the world are actually meeting, you know, others, and people are communicating and making friends and new like sisters of people they probably would have never been able to connect with before. They never probably would have crossed each other's paths and things like that. So I'm definitely considering, after this whole situation is over, obviously I do want to go back to holding some of my sister circles in person, but the way that they run online and the way that you can have obviously women from all corners of the world connecting, I definitely think I want to consider doing both, because both options seem to be good. And I've had a lot of the women obviously who've attended who are not from my local area say like, please keep running them online, because I want to keep coming. So yeah, I'm definitely considering doing both after all this is over.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. And can you share like about a challenge that you've personally faced, or a hurdle, and how you overcame it?
So if I link this back to, probably I'll link this back to my coaching business and my coaching journey and everything like that. So I would say that after I came out of like my coaching studies and things like that, and then graduated and went out into the world as this, you know, going from like a trainee to a qualified coach, it's quite like an intimidating process, essentially, because you kind of have this protection of like, I'm in training, and it's almost like a little bit of a badge that you wear to protect yourself in a way, because you feel like you can kind of hide behind that whole like trainee status. And then going out into the world as being, you know, fully qualified, fully certified coach, and really kind of having to navigate this new world of entrepreneurship and starting a business, and, you know, being the real expert in your niche area and things like that. It can feel quite overwhelming. And what I found myself doing was, so pre obviously me being a coach, I would say that I maybe followed on Instagram like maybe five coaches, and then after becoming a coach myself, I must have been following hundreds of other coaches. And I found myself getting into that whole spiral of comparison. So I was following all of these coaches, and my feed would be filled with other coaches and all the amazing things that they were doing in the world. And, you know, and people with like similar niches to me, kind of like speaking on topics that I was maybe thinking about speaking about. And then me telling myself they've done it in a better way than I was going to. So why bother showing up when they've done it better? Like all of the things. And so one of the things that I really had to do was, first of all, become aware of that, become aware of sort of like the toxicity that I was creating for myself, of like comparing myself to every other coach on the internet and how they showed up, and almost trying to fit myself into a box. And like, I almost became like a character version. So it was almost like there was like the normal Chelsea who was at home behind closed doors, and then this like character of Chelsea who showed up online and did, you know, the Instagram videos and everything like that. And I just knew that that wasn't truly who I was. So what I had to do was get really like firm with myself and get really super disciplined with myself and be like, okay, you don't need to be following all of these coaches, because it's not actually doing you any good. Like, it's not actually contributing. Like, you think you're following them for inspiration and things like that, but actually it's taking away your inspiration, because you're letting them, you know, make you not show up in a way, because you're comparing yourself to their posts, comparing yourself to the way that they show up, and almost trying to become this version, this coach version of yourself, which really isn't you. So I had to get super disciplined. I had to unfollow a lot of people, and just really sort of like be cautious and careful around whose messages mattered to me, which coaches I did want to follow, and what was truly important to me. Like, what was my why? What was my mission? You know, what was my legacy? Get really clear on all of those things, and really had to be like, who am I as a coach? Like, who do I want to be? And something I still feel like I'm navigating right now is really stepping into how much of me I can be, like how much of real me can I show up as and bring to, you know, my following and my community. Because the thing is that I want to show up in a way that is truly representative of me and who I am, like regardless of whether that means that I lose followers or, you know, people don't resonate with my message. I just think like, if you can fully show up as exactly who you truly are, the right people will find you, and the right, you know, whoever needs to hear your message will come and find you. So yeah, at the moment I'm definitely feel like I'm stepping more into how much of me I can be and showing up as who I truly am online and in all areas, because I want it to be in the way that if someone, say, follows me on Instagram and then met me in person, they would be like, oh, I feel like I already know you, not the, hang on a minute, you're totally different to what I see you showing up as online. So yeah, the hurdle in that itself was to really pull myself out of the like comparison and competitive mindset around, like, you know, the industry and coaching and everything like that, and really almost like strip it back to bare basics and be like, let's come back home to myself, and let's figure out who I truly am, what I, you know, who I want to attract into my business and my life, and who is my dream client to work with, and just get, like I say, brave enough to truly be me. So yeah, that's probably, in terms of like the coaching business, one of the hurdles that I had to overcome in the last year or so.
Yeah, and I relate to that. I've definitely felt that comparison and done the like unfollow thing, and I think it's really important to give yourself permission to do that as well. And I regularly check in and take inventory, and if I see someone's post and it triggers me and I start to feel that, then I generally will unfollow them or mute them so that I don't see their post for a while, because it's not useful. It can be really detrimental, and it's okay to set those boundaries. I think people can feel bad or guilty for unfollowing someone as well, when, you know, you're well within your right to do that. It's really important to be able to do that for yourself, and to set those boundaries for yourself. So I think that's really
100%. I definitely agree.
And so what makes you feel inspired?
I think I definitely feel inspired by just seeing people fully like show up for themselves. So again, like, you know, coming back to the whole, like, just the people that fully show up online as exactly who they are. They're not afraid to, you know, talk about the taboo topics or talk about the things that make other people feel uncomfortable. And the people who are real, you sort of like natural born leaders who are brave enough to go first at things. So as I say, like the ones who do the things that other people are afraid to do, or say the things that other people are afraid to say, and just really seeing them step into their power and almost be like you know, just set that example for others and be that trailblazer and be like, you don't have to, you know, settle and fit into these societal boxes and tick lists and things like that. Like, you really can, you know, question everything and make decisions based on how you truly feel about yourself and about what you want for your life. And you know, people who really sort of like step up and pursue their passion and purpose in life, rather than, as I say, kind of like shying away, hiding behind comfort zones and tick boxes, and, as I say, like, you know, the societal expectations and everything like that. So yeah, especially like on the topic of like who we follow now, like I make sure that whoever I am following is giving me that inspiration and giving me, it's almost like that stretch to be like, oh, like, you know, they've been brave enough to do that or speak on that topic. Like, that's, it's always like, I think it's like a really important message, which I know we hear all the time, but it's that, like, you know, the quote of like, you become the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And I think that also applies, especially in this modern world, to who you follow online. Like, if you're following people who are the go-getters, who are like, you know, really striving for more in life, then that's going to be like what you consciously consume, and that's going to be what you kind of like gives you that drive, gives you that passion, gives you that sense of wanting more from life. Whereas if you are sort of following people, obviously, you know, you've got your friends and your family and everything like that who you follow, but without, outside of like your friendship groups and stuff, if you are following people who are just really settling and like kind of like just sort of settling into like the usual expectations and things like that, like they're really not going to give you that drive and that sort of like push to really push yourself and stretch and so like lean into your edges. So yeah, I definitely, like, you know, anyone who fully steps up, owns it, speaks on the topics that other people are afraid to speak about, like, that is just what really gets my fire going and inspires me so much.
Can you share about an edge that maybe you've had to lean into and the benefit of what's happened when you have done that?
Yeah, so wow, there's probably many edges that I've had to lean into over the past over a year since, like, I, you know, trained to become a coach and everything like that. But I mean, there's probably smaller ones, like even just, you know, from the first time you show up on like Instagram video, or like, you know, put your kind of like face out there and speak on topics and things like that that you maybe were once afraid to speak about. So they're definitely some more of the sort of everyday edges that I've had to lean into. But I think as well, probably like when I consider about like my life and my decisions and the direction I've chosen to go, is being okay with the fact that not everyone's going to like you and not everyone is going to be for you, and just, you know, in return you're not going to be for everyone either. Because I used to be this real like people pleaser, and if I like found out that someone didn't like me for any reason, I would just be almost like mortified by it. I'd be like, but why? You know, I'm really nice. Like, why don't they like me? And it would almost become like my mission to be like, well, I'm going to make them like me. I'm going to show them that I'm a good person. So really getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, and, you know, just really sort of like being okay with the fact that not everyone is going to like me, and not everyone is going to like my message, not everyone is going to relate and resonate with me, and that's okay. And even like so much as like some of your family, like a lot of my family don't understand what I do, like as my career and my job and my passion and purpose. They don't get why I'm choosing, so they probably see it as more like I'm making it difficult for myself because I'm like striving and trying to make something work that I feel really passionate about. And whereas they probably see my life and think, oh, but it'd be so much easier for her to just stay in that corporate role and stay, you know, climbing that corporate ladder or whatever. Like, why can't you just be happy with what you have? Like all of that kind of, you know, messaging. So yeah, I would say like one of the biggest edges I've had to lean into is getting okay with the fact that not everyone's going to like you.
Yeah, and I know I used to get really triggered by like people unfollowing me or unsubscribing from my newsletter. I used to sit and like watch it and be like, "Who was it? Oh my goodness!" And really,
Mm,
that's a gift. Like now, I see it as such a gift because they're not my soul community. They're not my people. So it
mm,
just allows space
that's
for the
it.
people that do want to see my stuff to see it and to
Yes.
step into it. So it's such a little
Yeah,
shift,
that's
but
so
it's
like,
yeah.
yeah, I definitely agree, and I love that you said like it creates the space. Like I'm sort of like a big believer, especially now more than ever, that if you want to attract like the good into your life, or you know, the right people, then you have to create the space for it and make sure you can hold that. So like you say, if you're spending your time being consumed by who doesn't like you, who's unsubscribed or who's unfollowed, you're not then showing up as your best self to
Mm.
your community who wants you and who does follow your message and really likes, you know, loves who you are as a person. So yeah, I love that concept of like allowing and creating the space.
Yeah, yeah, it makes such a difference, and I think it's just, the little things, those little shifts that I think there can be so much talk about things having to be big and over the top, like changes or shifts. But starting really small, doing these little hacks, these little like slight adjustments, it's like curve in the road, and that is what creates the impact because you just kind of just shift course slightly, and it allows for these
Yeah.
opportunities and these things to unfold. It doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
like your edge or whatever as well. It doesn't have to be some big far out of reach thing that's hard to grasp onto that you think was not possible.
Mm,
That's more likely to set you up to like go down and fail. Well,
yeah.
fail, I don't like the word fail because I think everything's a lesson. You can grow from it. But,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to say fail, then it's easy to
Mm,
understand, I guess. Um, yeah. So, and I remember we've talked about this before about the concept of liking yourself versus loving yourself. And I just thought we should just jump
yeah.
into this because it's such a juicy topic. It's a really good one.
Yeah. So I think like you say, when we spoke about before, like the whole sort of concept of self-love and things like that, I feel like it has become very mainstream lately, and you see like a lot of, you know, hashtag self-love, hashtag self-care, and it gets like miscon sort of strewed as being like pampering and, you know, having baths and putting on face masks and all this kind of stuff. And yes, it can be that, it can 100% be that,
Mm.
but actually getting in and doing the work to really like and then love yourself, it's messy and it's not always pretty, and you know, sometimes it's going to be really hard and painful, and other times it will feel amazing and you'll feel at your best. But I really sort of like to focus on, first of all, liking yourself and then loving yourself, because if you go, you know, it depends really where your starting point is, but if you're in a place where you've not known anything other than tearing yourself down and looking in the mirror and just picking out your flaws, constantly telling yourself that you're not good enough, for someone to say, right, we're going to get you to love yourself, that can feel huge. And it's like you say, it's
Mm.
almost like creating that goal of, it just feels so far away and so out of your depth that essentially it could be setting yourself up for, you know, failure, as we say, like air
Mm.
quotations. um so yeah, I really sort of like to really support women in just start liking yourself first. Like, we don't have to, the love part can come later, like that can definitely come and we can build on that. But first of all, like from where you're at right now, if we can just get you to start liking yourself or even learning to like yourself,
Mm.
that's like the first step. Like that's the first baby step that you would need to take on your journey to self-love. And I think that's important as well, to remember that it is a journey. Like, it's not going to happen overnight, it's not going to happen probably even in a few months. Like, it's constant work, and it constantly takes you being aware of like how you're showing up, how you're speaking to yourself, how you're thinking about yourself, how you're like, you know, even looking at yourself and viewing your body and everything like that, and who you are as a person. And you know, if you can really bring your awareness to that and constantly, because the thing is as well, like this like inner critic and inner mean girl that we all have, essentially that's like our ego, and she is just trying to protect us. Like, she is, you know, in essence, you know, we may have had like experiences in our past where we've maybe shown up and we've been sort of like laughed at, or we've put ourselves out there and someone's told us that we're not good enough, and that, you know, subconsciously creates all of these stories and neural pathways within our brain that then creates this mean girl. And she's doing it because she doesn't want you to be embarrassed. She doesn't want you to put yourself out there and you know, make a fool of yourself. So really, she is trying to protect us in one sense, but then she gets a bit too mean sometimes, and she makes us just feel like really down and bad about ourselves. So I think, like, when we can really bring some awareness to that and just almost be like, okay, thank you for your concern, in a mean girl, like whatever you want to name her. However, I'm choosing to like myself a little bit more. I'm choosing to look at my body and like and appreciate what it does for me rather than how it looks. I'm looking at the different parts of my body and how, you know, they show up for me every single day without me even having to ask. And they work continuously to keep me alive, and I'm so appreciative of that, regardless of what they look like. And then obviously, as you move through this journey, you can then move on to, okay, so yeah, these parts of my body maybe that I previously used to pick at or call a flaw, actually maybe they are part of my gifts. And, you know, just because my belly's a little bit softer than what, you know, I see on Instagram, all these unrealistic images on Instagram, doesn't mean that I'm any less worthy, like doesn't mean that I'm any less of a woman or anything like that. So I definitely feel it's a progression. Like you can't just go from like full sort of self-sabotage to love. And I think as well, like the word self-love, or someone who loves themselves, has got a bit of a negative association around it as well, because, you know, so many times you hear like snide comments of, oh, she loves herself, or, you know, all of these sort of like negative annotations that come around it. And I think it's important to remember that self-love isn't selfish. It's necessary, it's essential, and it's a really important part of who we are and who we become as human beings. But yeah, definitely a journey, definitely a step-by-step process of liking and then getting to the love part.
Yeah, and I'm all about those tiny steps, and that's how I approach it too. I think it's too much of a stretch to just start at self-love. Like you can't, it's just too big. If you're not there, you've got to go like slowly up the steps to get there. And you know, I lost my train of thought. What you were just saying really resonated as well, but I've completely lost what I was going to say, which often happens in these interviews. But you know, yeah. So the steps to self-love, it's bit by bit, and just being with where you're at, accepting with where you're at, and then moving to the next step. Don't jump ahead, because it will get messy and you'll just like fall. And it's better to just go slowly. And there is such a thing about self-love, you know, and I totally agree that people can perceive it as selfish, but really it's so full of humility and vulnerability. And it's selfless in that it allows you to fill your cup so you can be present for other people and support other people. And it's such a tough road sometimes. There's so many times where I've been like working on myself, doing all the work, and just being like, oh my God, it'd be so much easier to stop doing this because it's comfortable. And it would be, it's like challenging to face off with your emotions and feel them and look at them and have them there, you know. And it would be way easier to just watch Netflix and numb it and suppress it and keep pushing it down. But there's no reward there. It just stays the same, and it just gets worse, and you'll just feel worse. Yeah. So I just really agree with you. And so, what's the best compliment you've ever received?
I think it would have to be it's so I know that obviously when we talk about compliments, you can quite often like associate them with like your appearance or how you look or things like that. But it was probably in the last sort of like few months, one of the best compliments I think I've ever received is someone saying that I feel like sunshine. So they said, like, you know, the way you show up, who you are as a person, you feel like sunshine, and like who wouldn't want to be close to that.
That's
and I think like that for me was just like the bomb diggity of like compliments, because it just says so much about like who you are as a person, the way you make other people feel, and like how you show up in life. And for someone to like associate me as a person with sunshine, you know, I was just like, yeah,
that's so lovely. Yeah, I love that. And what's one thing that your work has done for a client that you didn't expect?
So I would say, if I could choose one, I think, so sometimes obviously when you get into these like coaching journeys with clients and things like that, you often start with like particular goals, and then as you'll know, like as the journey unfolds, you know, throughout the coaching and everything like that, they can quite often take different twists and turns to what you expect them to. So a lot of the time, I think as well, a lot of the time people come into the coaching journey thinking that they want a certain thing, or they want to change something, or they want to feel a certain way. And again, for them, they start uncovering and realizing as they move through the coaching journey as well. So I would say probably one of the biggest things is someone coming into the coaching journey with me thinking that they wanted to just work on their business, like they wanted to improve how they showed up in their business, how they manage their team, like all of those types of things. And then going from believing that you're about to be working on your business to then fully embodying like self-worth, and like knowing that she basically like came out of it like feeling so worthy and confident in who she was as a person, and not afraid anymore to show up. I think like maybe she came into it like with almost like a bit of a, maybe like the whole business thing was maybe almost like a bit of a protection, like I'm coming into this for my business, like I'm going to do this to improve my business and this and that. And then to by the end of that journey to come out of it and be like, I now know for certain that I'm not too much, I'm not too little of anything, like I am perfect exactly as I am, and all of these women around me that I admire and look up to are just a mirror of who I am as a person. Like everything I see in them is a reflection of what's also in me. And for her to fully like see that and embody that for herself was one of the most amazing journeys, because like you say, like yes, she got like, you know, she hit the goals with the business and things like that, but in that process, like fully stepping into her self-worth, her self-trust, and her own real power was probably one of the best outcomes from a coaching journey that I've been through.
So amazing. I love that so much. And so what does elevating your life and soul mean to you?
I just think it's all about, for me, like elevating your life and your soul is definitely like just always like being like open, like curious and questioning like what else is there, what's the next level I can go to, like how much further can I take and expand this. And I truly believe that it's a lifelong journey. Like I don't believe that you get to a certain point and then you just stop and you're like, okay, I now know it all, you know, like I now have all the lessons, I now have all the wisdom and the knowledge. Like there is so much out there that we don't know. Like the universe is vast and incredible and powerful. And I just believe that like elevating your life and soul is constantly giving yourself permission to seek more, to go more, like to go further, to fully delve into like the depths of who you are, because there is so much about ourselves still to uncover and explore and to get to know. And I just think it's all about like, again, like leaning into those edges and constantly pushing and elevating out, and just really expanding on your life and your soul purpose and the reason that your soul chose to come here at this time and incarnate in this body. Like what is the meaning and the purpose behind that? Because I definitely am a believer in like that, you know, angels, your guides, and all of those kinds of things, like they definitely know that you've got a higher purpose and, you know, a more expansive path. And all of those things, and they've got the map, but you never get to see that map. You just have to trust, and you just have to trust
I
that
love that.
your intuition is your inner compass and it's guiding you, and that they have your back, and, you know, whatever feels right and whatever you're being nudged or guided towards is all part of that map and that purpose. So yeah, I would say
I really love
that's
that.
what elevate your life and soul means to me.
Yes, so amazing. Thank you so much. Is there before we wrap up things, is there anything, any final thoughts, or anything you'd love to share that or that you wish I'd asked you, that you're burning desire to share?
I think the only thing I would add on is that we are all leaders. Like, we all get to be leaders. There's not just like certain people who are like the chosen ones and the special ones. And if you have any kind of like burning passion in your belly, or any sort of like niggling feeling, even if it's small, that's like, there's something more that I'm here for, like, just follow it. Like, you know, we are all equal. Like, just because you maybe have someone up on a pedestal, like, you know, deconstruct that pedestal, because we're all just humans. We're all just in this game of life, like trying to figure it all out as we go. And if you've got that nudge and that niggle inside of you that there's something else, like you're made for more, then follow it. Even if it's just a baby step, you know, one baby step after another, just follow it. And yeah, you'll get there, and you'll find that passion and purpose that you're here for.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh, I loved it. I love this conversation. I always love chatting to you because we're so on the same page with so much, all of this stuff. So I really, really appreciate you being here. And I'd love for you to share how people can connect with you and all your offers, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can connect with me over on Instagram. So my handle is at authentically_you_CBC, which just stands for Coaching by Chelsea. I've then got my website, which is www.authenticallyyoucoaching.co.uk. I'm then on Facebook under Authentically You Coaching by Chelsea. So in terms of like things that are coming up for me, so I'm going to continue, as I say, to offer like my sister circles both online and in person when we can. And then I've also just recently released an ebook out to my mailing list. So anyone that signs up to my mailing list gets my free ebook called Wildly Worthy, which is getting started on your journey to confidence. And yeah, so in the next coming months, I'm going to be launching my first group coaching program called the Confidence Collective, which is going to be like a small and intimate group of women over 7 weeks, fully breaking it down, like the journey to confidence, and really like getting more in tune with like your self-trust, your intuition, and figuring out what it is that you really want in life. So yeah, lots of exciting things coming up in the next few months.
Amazing. And we will put this all in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. It's been so amazing. I'm so grateful.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
My pleasure. Bye.